So we want to get to know us a little better. I hate pandas, actually. I think they're
I
horrible.
love pandas.
And I'll
Pandas are
explain
awesome.
why in a little bit in one of our mistake slides of things that Ben made a mistake on. But we have a really fun team. They do some really creative stuff. So Chase, do you want to help me play the 5-year anniversary video real fast so you guys can get to know us a little better?
So this was a surprise. Ryan and I walked into the office, and some of our employees had done this. They'd made this video while we were away. We had no clue. It's already awkward.
Starring Williams as Ben Peterson and Matt Wilford here as Ryan Sanders.
What would you have me do, my lord? Happy wife, happy life. Too long we cower in the shadows of creeping giants. For too long we've been forced to work bound by the chains of spreadsheets and forms. I stand here now to declare to you, that is today. Today we fight. We fight for every man and woman in HR who's never had a chance to live life free. Free from the country of Canada. So go forth. Give them access. Give them features. Give them support.
That big guy's our graphic designer. He's huge.
We will fight to make the chief. We will fight for that freedom.
There's like 1,000 inside jokes there. Happy wife, happy life, the creamies. Any of you guys recognize anybody in that video? They think they're YouTube famous, so I was just curious. I'll have to go back and tell them, yeah, no one recognized you guys at all.
So anyway, they're a fun group, and we try to keep it light. Try not to take ourselves too seriously, but we'll try to tell you a little bit about us, which is kind of boring. So first of all,
I like pandas. Ryan hates pandas.
I do hate pandas. We've known each other for a long time. We actually met at mycomputer.com, and Ben was in business development, and I was in product management. And we had a ping pong table, and Ben was really good, and he liked to beat up on little guys who didn't know how to play ping pong from Idaho like me. So we met there, and Ben was actually a really good friend. In addition to beating me at ping pong, he actually showed up with his wife and his little son when we had our first child at the hospital, which is pretty fantastic. And so our friendship kind of goes back to that. So you guys know my computer became Omniture, became Adobe, right? So that's where we got to know each other. Then I left and went to Candesa, and that's where I did work for Novell and Disney and Hitachi and stuff like that. And then Ben did stuff.
I did stuff. So we should go back. So I was here taking a class. In fact, I think I was in the Entrepreneur Lecture Series at the same time. It was about the second year that they offered entrepreneurship as a major. And I had a teacher, his name was Joe Olivier, who was one of the first investors in a company called Superstats, which was Josh James and John Pastana's first company. So my professor, you had to do a business plan. I was just trying to graduate and get out of here. I take him a business plan. He said, it looks like you know a little bit about the internet, which at that time not many people did because of a job I had. And he said, why don't you go talk to these guys and see if you can do a business plan around one of their ideas. So I went down to the office at Superstats, and Josh said, I know you have a business plan that you need to do for school, because they were in school at the same time. And he said, but we'd rather just hire you as well. And so I took a job there working. I wasn't even looking for a job, and I don't know, Josh James can sell anything. He sold me on working there. And then, so I was the 14th employee at Superstats, which turned into mycomputer.com. And then obviously Omniture and Adobe. So great experience. I left there when there were about 135 employees. I think Ryan was 53. And then I went and did some startups. I actually was a founder of a company called States Best, which is now Allegiance, with Rick Farr, who was a professor here, and a guy named Gary Rhodes, who's still here. And then just did a bunch of other things. While I was at Omniture, I'd started on the side a website called LDS Mingle, and Christian Mingle, and Catholic and Jewish. Kind of a random story that I just kind of fell into. It's not like I sat around in class thinking I wanted to be a matchmaker, but it just happened that there was an opportunity here. So Christian Mingle, they still advertise, but we basically had about 20 different verticals around the world that were online personals, and Spark Networks in 2005 bought those. And there's nothing harder to hire for than an online dating company, because how many of you right now are thinking, I really want to go into online dating? Well, wait a minute. I know you're into online dating already, but not to work for an online dating company. So anyway.
So I joined back up with Ben at Mingle Match, and we spent a couple of years working together really hard. And when I joined, there were 13 sites, and then we added 13 more of those niche dating sites. So in May of 2005, Ben sold the company to Spark Networks, and then he stuck around for a year, and then I stuck around for a year and a half after Ben left. We knew we wanted to work together. Ben wouldn't leave me alone. He kept taking me to lunch and saying, let's go work together. And I was fine. I was doing okay without him.
I was lost. I was like a lost puppy.
He was a little bit. He said,
you got to understand, partnerships that work are kind of rare, in my opinion. And if you look at the background, it's not like we just started, out of the blue. We had years of experience. So the online marketing side, driving traffic to websites, before SEO really existed, doing SEO. And then his background with Candesa, doing project development, building really cool websites for some phenomenal companies. So there was definitely, our skill sets matched really, really well. So there was a reason when I left Spark that I was like, because I knew what I could go sell it, but I couldn't build it. So it was a good match.
Yeah, Mingle Match.
Yeah.
It was good. So we got together. I quit my job at Spark Networks in December of 2007, and if you guys remember back that far, then that was right when the market crashed. Like literally the day after I quit was when the market imploded. My 401k was under by 60%. Not the best time to quit your job without a plan.
He still cries about it.
I do a little bit. We sat in a room. I took December off and just spent time with family, and wrestled my kids a little bit. And then we got together in a room in January, which I discovered after I discovered why Ben was lost. It was because he had rented a room in the place where we used to be at Spark Networks, and he had tons of Louis L'Amour books and a big giant beanbag, and that's all he would do all day long was read Louis L'Amour in a beanbag in an office, hiding from his family. So we got together. We got in a 10-by-10 room. We were whiteboarding all kinds of ideas. Some of them we thought were okay. Some of them were lame. Some eventually got funded by other people who came up with similar ideas. And then we'd been in the room long enough and had not been productive, and I'd not been making money now for 3 months, that I said, I need a break. I gotta get away from you, number one. And number two, I got to make some money. so I took off and talked to a friend of mine who was in the human services industry, and said, "Hey, John, we worked together on this training database. It was an access database. I helped them get it online so that people could access it from anywhere. And then I said, do you need any more help on your access database to track more stuff or do whatever?" He said, "Actually, we do." And he gave me a laundry list of things that they wanted done. And so I was excited because I had a job. I could make some money, which is good. But I was more excited because the things that he wanted were more along the lines of HR things, not just training things. And so I got pumped because I'm excited I liked HR for whatever reason. I really enjoy HR and improving processes there. I love the web. I love making web software. So everything kind of combined into something that was an exciting opportunity for me. So I called Ben and I said, "Ben, I think I have an idea." And he said, "Well, what is it?" And I said, "I'll tell you later." I didn't want to tell him because when Ben dives in deep, he goes really, really deep, and he becomes an expert at the market. He knows all the players, all the size of the market. He knows everything, and he does it pretty fast, but he goes really, really deep, and I didn't want to send him loose down a rabbit hole without having it yield something. So I spent about a week or two kind of vetting the idea, getting excited about it, and said, "Hey, let's go build software for human services companies."
So when he gave the idea, I looked, and if you take a look at this space, if you just type in human resources software, talent management, HRIS, human resource information systems, HRMS, human resource management systems, performance, employee engagement, recruiting, all of these things, all of these players compete with some piece of HR. So every payroll company, ADP, Ceridian, Paychex, we compete with so many companies. I had a spreadsheet with like 150 companies. But most of them, if not all of them, were enterprise, meaning they were really, really expensive at the time. So SaaS, this idea of subscription-based software, was kind of early, and we were really excited about that model. We didn't like advertising models where you're paying for banner ads, you're selling advertising, because most of the stuff that most of the business models around that really, really struggle. I mean, unless you're Facebook, if you're going to start a company that just sells advertising, good luck. There's some real difficulties around that. And so we were really excited about the model. And we thought, okay, these are really expensive softwares. They're really ugly. This guy can build beautiful software. The customer experience was horrible. People hate their HR software. And our idea was, hey, if we can turn in that hate, as passionate as they are about hating it, if we can turn that passion into loving it, then we have a real opportunity. And if we can build it and sell it for less expensive than what's out there, then there's an opportunity here. So, naively, because we did not know the market and how they would buy the HR persona, we said, let's just go build this. And so we started building in July. We formed the company in July of 2008, and then we went live with an MVP, minimum viable product, which was archaic in November. And the name of the company I picked, it was a horrible, horrible name, Human Services HQ, because again, our focus was on companies who had frankly, they had really high turnover. They were responsible for a lot of training. One of our first clients was a company called Ness, and they work with disabled people throughout the state, and they hire them as well. And they work with a lot of students, so their turnover is really, really high. But they also are accountable to the state to make sure that they're trained. So they have all their certifications, et cetera, and they would get audited all the time. And so that was our focus. I called every human services agency in the state. It was literally me and Ryan and one other guy in a 10-by-10 room. He definitely hard working in that close of quarters. But we called everybody. But it was a horrible name. Ryan's wife actually couldn't remember the name of the company, and when I would call people, they couldn't remember the name of the company either. And so we spent days trying to think of a good name and couldn't. And so we found someone that could.
So we spent a little bit of time and a little bit of money to work with the company back east that helped us brand it. They went through a few rounds before we came up with BambooHR. I loved it instantly. I love Bamboo. I love the imagery. Ben hates Bamboo, and then I hate pandas. So I don't know how this came about, but
I hated the name at first. It was like Bamboo. It's a plant,
But
build HR software.
He learned to love it.
I love it.
I think he was just ready to move on.
Yeah. I didn't care. It's like, okay, that name works. Let's go.
So
it's really hard to find the right name, to find the right brand.
It was a little tough. So we'll talk a little bit about Bamboo. Hopefully, some of these things will help out a little bit. we love this quote. It's a quote we read early on as we were going. Overnight success takes years. I think it's John Pastana who's the first one who told this to me, but I've heard it a few times since. It takes three times as long, is 3 times as hard, and costs 3 times as much to start a business. And yeah, it hurts. It's true in a lot of cases. In some cases, you could, I guess, get lucky, but it's tough. But it's funny because as soon as we changed the name, it's like everything changed. People remembered who we are. They got excited about Bamboo. Our branding obviously evolved as well, and so that helped. But it takes years, and so now, Ben will run into somebody. Everywhere we go, Ben knows somebody. So he'll run into somebody at the airport and ask what he's doing, and they'll think that it's an instant success, and yet we've been doing this for 7 years. So, I can't remember why you wanted to put this
Just
in.
because I want to punch you in the face.
Okay, so there's this movie. I've never seen the movie. It's Step Brothers. I shouldn't ask because it's rated R, right? I shouldn't ask who's seen it. But I've only seen the trailer, and in the trailer, it's John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell, I think, or somebody like that. And they're in bed. They're stepbrothers. They're in these beds in their funny pajamas or whatever. And one of them says, "Hey, are you still awake?" And he says, "Yeah." And he says, "When you fall asleep, I'm going to punch you right in the face." And I don't know why. Maybe it was all the stress of building the company, but I found that so funny. And so you'll hear people at our company talking about punching each other in the face. It doesn't. Nobody. I don't think anybody's ever actually punched anybody in the face, ever in their life. But I guess that's why that's in there.
There was one time when Ryan was out of town, and I told him I was going to do something, and he said, "If you do that, I'm going to send you a FedEx punch in the face." So it was pretty classic. But we should talk a little bit about BambooHR and where we are today too. You talk about that overnight success takes years. So our first year, we sold 22 clients. And that was just me and Ryan in a room with me calling, I don't know, thousands of companies trying to figure things out. The next year, we sold 57. So in year 2 was 57. So we're still under 100. Near the end of that year in September, we hired another sales rep, and we just needed help because I had more leads than I could work on my own. Today, we have over 3,000 clients in over 70 plus countries. Some of the fun names that you guys would recognize: Snapchat's a client, Fitbit. Who else are fun ones? Fandango, Pinterest, Lyft. I don't know, a whole bunch of them. I can't think of them, but we got new ones all the time. Goo. So we also have 124 employees. At the beginning of last year, we had 50. At the beginning of the year before that, I think we had around 25, maybe 30. And so we're trying to hire enough by the end of this year so that we have probably over 200 by the end of the year. So when they say overnight success takes years, it's true. It takes a long time to see the results of building a solid foundation. Also, you should know that our purpose wasn't to I call it pump and dump or flip the company. But our intent with this is, as we sat down in our experience and working at other startups and other places, Ryan and I were able to really say, this is what we want to build, and then watching that through the last 7 years kind of come about has been really fun. But that's kind of where we are today. So we started the product. When I said minimum viable product, it was literally take an Access database or a spreadsheet and put it online. It was that bland. But now you'll see we've got applicant tracking, we've got onboarding, we track time off, we've got a sweet mobile app that's native Android and iOS, and again 5-6 different languages. At the end of last year, we translated it into Chinese because we got some Australian company that does logistics and was bought by a Chinese firm, and they were multinational in different locations, and they wanted it in Chinese. We said, sure, go ahead and translate it. They do it. And we just allow the technology to have them do it themselves. And we can roll out new languages in a couple weeks. So it's really fun to watch the product evolve and the team evolve. From one rep for a couple years, now we've got 30 account executives. We've got a great support team, an implementation team, and marketing team, and we love video. So if you look at our YouTube channel, you'll see a lot of video, and we try to differentiate that way a little bit, just with our own kind of personality. But it's taken a long time, but it's been rewarding. Did I miss anything out about who we are now? And half of you guys have your laptops open, and you just go look at the site and see who we are. The reviews, if you look at the reviews, we've got more reviews, better reviews than any other HR software company out there, which is fun and rewarding. And so our focus and our development is definitely on the user experience. So the UX, the UI, those are the kinds of things that matter. And a lot of that comes from Ryan's background in software and building software.
So one of the things that's really important to us is culture. And so to have a good culture, we feel strongly about having a really compelling mission. So ours, as we've defined it, is to set people free to do great work. No company on this planet hires another person to spend time in their HR software. The HR software is supposed to be an enabler, technology enabler in the system, and there's other things that they need to do. We also believe fundamentally that everybody has the ability to do great work. Doesn't matter the role, doesn't matter the company, doesn't matter about anything other than the fact that you have it in yourself to do great stuff. And so this is our goal, is to set people free to do great work. Imagine, if you will, if there are 1 million people using BambooHR, and we save those people 5 minutes a week. That's pretty cool, right? It's fun to be able to see, hey, we can help them get in, get out, and get their stuff done, because their time isn't best spent in the software. We want to make it be an enabler. So we have pretty lofty goals around this. One of my favorite quotes, Jim Collins is a favorite of ours from back in the Mingle match days when we read Good to Great. And I love this quote on greatness. Greatness is not a function of circumstance. Greatness, it turns out, is largely a matter of conscious choice and discipline. And that's really, really hard. It's hard to be conscious of the choices that you make and of having discipline of sticking to the ones you have made. And stick to your principles as well, I think can be tough. We've also spent a lot of time designing our values. I don't know how to stress how important it is to know what you stand for. For us, it's these things. It's enjoy quality of life. For us, it's about making sure that you can come into work really, really hard, but then go home to your families, go home to your passions, your hobbies, your things that matter most in life. We don't believe that you have to sacrifice your entire life in order to create a great business. Also, assume the best. You want to talk about that one? Those are your favorites.
Yeah, I don't know if you've, just depending on your work experience, maybe you've been in places that are really political, really bureaucratic. People are kind of trying to cover their butt. And I like the idea of knowing that the type of person we hire, if they make a mistake, I know it wasn't intentional. I know they're not trying to hurt BambooHR. They're not trying to wreck their job opportunities, et cetera. So we have this idea of always assume the best. No one's out to get you. Everyone's just trying to make things better. I love the idea of, people are messy. We're emotional. We have challenges. We bring baggage to work, good and bad. I just love the idea of clearing all of that out of the way so that you can just run. So these things aren't impeding our ability to innovate, to grow, to do things the right way the first time. And so assuming the best just helps everybody. It sets kind of the framework with how we treat each other. I can always assume that the people I'm working with have their best intentions when they make choices and decisions. They're not doing things for self-interest. We'll talk a little bit about humility in the future too, but that's kind of the idea behind assuming the best.
Be open has to do with we're open to ideas from anywhere. It doesn't have to come from Ben or from me. Great ideas can come from anywhere, and also that being open is just being open to the feedback and assuming the best and living the values. Do the right thing is obvious. Do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Lead from where you are is this idea of anybody can be a leader. You don't have to be a manager title or a senior title to be a leader. You can actually lead from where you are regardless. I don't know if anybody here was I call them restroom rangers, right? If you have a job on campus, if you're a restroom ranger. You can lead from where you are as a restroom ranger. You can lead from where you are in whatever job that you have and be the best possible. And good things follow after that. And then the last one is grow from good to great. Again, that's kind of a hat tip to Jim Collins, is that good is awesome, but great is the best.
Quick thought on leading from where you are. I got to tell you, it's so hard when we do an interview and someone walks in and says, I want to be a manager. That's my goal. It's like, I'm not hiring for manager positions, and we take the best people, so I don't know what to tell you. If you're the best one for manager, you'll get the manager position. If you're not, you won't. And there's been a lot of press lately, Washington Post, about millennials and the millennial generation, which is you guys. And so I read this article a month or two ago, this lady saying, look, if you're in HR, here's what you need to do for millennials. You need to take your normal track, your normal career development for a role, and where you normally have it be over 3, 4, 5, 6 years or whatever, you need to divide it up, because the millennial generation, they need to know that there's all these advancements. Okay, so this is your first 6 months, then your first 12 months, et cetera, and that's how you go, because they all want to have this manager mentality. And I'm a little bit contrarian as far as that goes, because I think that's garbage. I think that the millennial generation needs to come in, and you're no different than anyone else. Everyone else wants a career path. Everyone else wants to grow. Everyone else wants to learn. So the idea is that the companies need to educate and be really clear about the opportunities that exist as they are, and explain why they exist that way, so that the millennial generation and everyone else can understand what the career path truly looks like. Otherwise, it's just fake. It's not reality. Steve?
Do you guys see your employees using these values in any particular way?
Yes, we'll actually get into that, but absolutely. So we put together a brand book. I think you might be able to find it online. I'm not sure. But definitely, we talk about them at every meeting, and they come up, and they're repeated multiple times, just so it becomes a habit, right?
This year's theme is Power of One. There's a great blog post by the CFO of Zappos, and he talks about if you do a 1% improvement every day, mathematically it's not a 365% improvement over the year. It actually is significantly larger than that. So every year we have a new theme. This year's theme is Power of One. So our team is focused, in addition to living the values on a daily basis, we're focused on trying to improve 1% in the role that they're at, in the department they're at, and as a company. It's fun to get behind these things because some of the changes that people make are significant, and we certainly get more than 1% result from that. Ben wanted to throw in a few stories, and this is a really lame story, but I'll tell you mine. You can tell that I'm the boring speaker, and Ben is really good. I am actually very, very shy.
That's not true. He thinks that, but he's definitely an introvert. But he put together the whole deck. I have this much creativity in me, and he's got everything else. But
I'm very shy. But we went to a conference, and there were a bazillion HR ladies at this conference.
Like 15,000, the largest HR conference in the world. It was scary.
And we get there, we fly in. It's in Vegas. We fly in, and I think I want to be like Ben. Like you go to the airport. He's meeting people he knows from everywhere. I go to the restroom and come back, and the whole Delta counter's just laughing, giving him upgrades, and I'm like, how do you do that? So I decided this trip is the trip that I'm going to be just like Ben, and so I'm ready. I'm going to be outgoing. I'm going to talk to people. I don't know how to talk small talk. I don't know. I don't even get it. So we're hungry. There's a big session going on. We're waiting, and let's get a little something before the show starts. And we go, and there's bagels. And I'm like, oh, good, let's get a bagel. And Ben says, let's toast them. They're in the toaster. There's a little conveyor belt toasters. Anyway, so we slice the bagels. I put mine in my toaster, and there's a lady right next to me, and I'm like, here goes. Step one of this day of being like Ben.
And the fact that he's planned all this out tells you something, right? I mean,
so I look over at this lady, and I start talking to her. And boy, I am rocking it, I have to tell you. I'm doing so good. And right at that moment of my thinking that I'm doing so good, she goes, you are on fire. And I'm like, you bet I am. And she goes, your bagel's on fire. And I turn around, and my bagel's literally stuck in the toaster, and it's on fire. Flames are coming out. And I'm being the shy guy that I am, I just sit there looking at it while the bagel's flaming. I mean, you got 15,000 HR women that are going to burn down in this convention center in Las Vegas. And this flames, and I'm sitting there frozen. Ben, who's a man of action, quickly unplugs the toaster oven, which is, you can't do that. It's not my toaster oven. I can't unplug those things. He grabs the tongs out of the pickle jar. Well, you can't grab flaming bagels with tongs from the pickle jar. Those are for pickles. So he grabs those, takes the flaming bagel out, throws it in the bottom. Crisis averted, right? And I'm done. I'm not going to talk to anybody for the rest of the day. That was like 7:30 in the morning, and I didn't talk to anybody the rest of the time we were there. So I've given up from this point forward talking about. Anyway, that's the flaming bagel story. This was a reminder just to say that we spent a lot of time on those values and on our brand book. You can just search for BambooHR brand book, and you kind of see who we are, what we're made of, things that we really commit to. I think one of the things that surprises most people that come to work are that we don't just write these things down and slap them on the wall and say, yes, we believe these things. We actually live them. Day in and day out, we try to live these brand values.
So a lot of this came. There's a great quote. I don't think you have that slide in there. That culture eats strategy for breakfast. Great quote. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. So when Ryan went to Gonzaga, he's studying organizational leadership. He gets his master's degree, and a lot of that is around servant leadership, which is really intriguing and interesting. And so a lot of the things that he learned there, blended with the values that we have, helped kind of create this foundation of culture. And again, this idea of removing every barrier that would impede our progress or stop us from doing things the right way. Culture just gets rid of so many problems. Toxic cultures kill. I mean, guaranteed half of you are in a place where you just go into work, it's like, I cannot believe how bad the culture is here. And that stops progress, that limits. And there's so many studies around great cultures and how good their numbers are. So the results are definitely real dollar related.
We talked a little bit about work-life balance. This is really critical. We've both been at places where they worked 80 hours a week and you sacrifice so much of your family life. We, again, believe that we can find a way to balance life and work and still have time for the good stuff. In some cases, we've skewed a little bit to the side of we don't try to make it so much more exciting to come to work than it is to go home, right? You won't find a ping-pong table at our place. You won't find a foosball table. You won't find some of these things that make it really an Xbox, right? Some of those things are fun, and we talked about kind of having one on wheels that we could roll out when people are coming for recruiting visits, and then roll it back in the closet when people leave. But
we tricked you.
Yeah, but the goal is to have balance, right? The goal is to have balance and still find measures of success.
So Ryan has married, 3 kids, and I've got 6. And so as we started this company, it's kind of funny. We used to talk about, let's go build this company. It'll be 3 or 4 people. It'll make decent money, and we can leave. We can work like dentist hours and take all day Friday off and things like that, which obviously hasn't worked out. But the idea of, hey, if I want to go coach my daughter's 6-year-old soccer team, I can do it, and I'm not going to get in trouble. Or if I leave, it's not going to look down upon. In fact, that's a good thing because I'm going to be more productive and more engaged at work while I'm there. So that definitely matters.
One of the things we do try to put into everybody is we try to leave everybody better than we found them. That's one of it. We feel like that there's a bit of a stewardship there. And so one of the things we do is we offer financial peace for our employees. If you're one of our employees and you want to take the class, then you pay the money, you take the class, and if you complete it, we reimburse you the money, plus we give you a little bit of a bonus to complete it. We feel that it makes people better. You worry about, when your brakes go out and you need to replace your tires, you're not freaking out about stuff at home because you've kind of planned for it. It's one of those things that's small, but we genuinely try to leave people better than we found them instead of focusing on some of the outside stuff that does. I don't know that video games leaves you better than they found you. So.
27% of our employees have taken this. Many of their spouses have taken it, and it's wiped out all of their debt, and they have savings. And it's changed lives, so it's a real fun one.
A couple of juicy items of mistakes we made, and we're running short on time, so we'll blaze through this really fast. Focus is hard, especially early, because there's so much to get done. It's hard later because there's no limit on the opportunities that are available to us. This is one of those things that going forward, though, is key to our success, is focusing on the right things and saying no to certain things. And it's really, really hard. Early on, when people would ask for custom software development, we'd say, yeah, you bet. If you'll be a customer, we're going to do that. Was one of the poorest decisions we've ever made. Now we have to support those things continually. And so we're glad when we were able to stop doing that. But we say no a lot more than we say yes. And on custom dev stuff, we absolutely say no across the board. So focus is one key. Bad hires, you want to talk about that real fast?
Nah, not really. We've had bad hires. They suck. Okay.
Wrong tool for the job. We've gone through several tools where they were the bad choice and they haven't lasted. And so we've changed merchant accounts 3 times or 4 times. We've changed CRMs a couple of times. We've changed customer relationship management tool like Salesforce. Picking the right tool that scales is I think critical because otherwise you have to spend your time when you should be building your company retooling. We'll skip that one. Oops, this is my favorite, one of my favorites. We make mistakes all the time. The key is to not make the same mistake twice. We have an oops at BambooHR.com.
Ryan says we make mistakes, but he really means I make mistakes all the time. Just wanted to clarify that.
This is true. Not completely. But if somebody at a company makes a mistake that is kind of more impactful than just their core group, we love when they send an email to oops at BambooHR.com so that they can say, here's what I did, this is why it was wrong, and this is what I learned. And people are blown away that people will send that to a company of 124 people where you can see that mistake, all those warts and all their glory and grandeur. But the thing is, we don't want anybody else to make that mistake, not just that person. So it's one of those tools that we love to use. Try not to repeat ourselves. Quick free advice. So whether or not you're starting a company or whether you're going to get a job, whether you're in the job right now or you're getting ready to graduate come April. We talked about not making the same mistake. So spelling and grammar matter. It bugs me when you guys send resumes in and there's bad grammar, bad spelling, bad, no bueno. Knock it off. Have somebody read it, would you? Use spell check for Pete's sake.
Also your social media profiles.
Oh, man.
Use good grammar.
LOL, right? Oh, just kidding. The thing here is it just matter. You take the time, right? If you want the job bad enough, you'll take the time to spend some time here.
You would be shocked at the resumes, and yeah,
it's pretty interesting.
Maybe you wouldn't.
Beware of shiny objects is the idea of that idea of when you go to get your job, or even if you're running a company, beware of those things that are distractions from your core purpose. There are a lot of things. It can be things like the Xbox and the foosball table. If you're interviewing, it could be some of those things that look fantastic on paper, but when you get into it, day in and day out, you don't think about foosball. You're thinking about the work you're doing, who you're doing it with, and the mission and the vision of the company.
Yeah, those aren't long lasting. We get calls, we get LinkedIn invites, we get resumes from the companies that you would think, well, I mean, you'd walk into their offices and you'd be like, wow, free lunch and this and that, and they're shiny. But the people are looking to leave, right? And so it's not long lasting. It's not the rewarding, challenging work.
So we're not trying to say you can't have both, but just to be careful.
True.
Don't get distracted. First job experience. I was the TA for this back in my day.
1980, I think, 85. Just
yeah.
kidding. I'm older than him. He's not that old.
One of the things that I remember from Lisa Burnson, who came in, I think she still speaks every now and then, is that the experience of your first job out of college matters more than what you get paid. So again, this is one of those things that could be a shiny object. I would pick experience miles above what the pay is. Again, you can sometimes have both. Just be careful. Make sure you get the experience that you want and is valuable.
This may sound like the employer's trying to say, oh, the pay shouldn't matter. We don't want to pay you what you're worth. You should all work cheap, right? That's not necessarily the case. What happens is if I have someone who I have a pay grade for, say 50 to 60, and they have 5 years experience, then I'm going to hire them for the 50 to 60 because they have 5 years experience. So we'll have people come in that they want the 50 to 60 without the experience because they feel the entitlement generated, I'm worth that, I should get that, but they don't have the experience. But on the flip side of that, you go work real hard for 2 to 3 years, and the depth of your experience is going to be phenomenal, and you're going to get those raises fast because everyone's trying to hire away from everyone else. And so the incremental increases, if you stay at a company for 10 years, maybe you get the classic 2-3% a year. But if you go and work really hard for a couple of years, you're going to get the 15-20% pay jump after just a few years, especially if you're really good.
So we'll go through these last ones really, really fast. Integrity and work ethic. Integrity is do what you say you'll do. Be honest. Obviously, those make sense. But Ben will talk about it at the very end, why integrity is important to him. Work ethic. Can't tell you how hard it is sometimes to find people who are willing to work and willing to pitch in wherever, right? That stuff matters, especially in a startup. Humility is simply being willing to learn from anybody, whether it's somebody who's your manager or somebody who's working next to you or somebody who's reporting to you. Be open to know that somebody knows more than you in just about any topic. Know your why is pretty cool. If you've read Start With Why, Simon Sinek, or watched his TED Talk, is great. We live by kind of the why we do things. Our why is to set people free to do great work. And if you know your personal why when you go either start a company or you go work for a company, it's critical to your success. The last one's mind your personal brand, and Ben alluded to this. Your social media profiles have we look at those when we're hiring, So it's fine if you're a goofball because Ben's a goofball, I'm a goofball. Just be wise about the stuff you post. And then your voicemails, you'd be surprised when people, sometimes we'll call, like we'll be interviewing a salesperson, on paper they look great, we'll call to set up an interview, and it's like, dude, this is Bill, call me, or whatever. They're like, get out of my face. It doesn't even fit, right? So just be careful about your personal brand. You want to be genuine, and you don't want to hide who you really are, but just be cautious of what you float out there. We just got like 1 minute. So.
Goes to 10-2? Yeah. If you guys are itching? Okay. So this is BYU. And so one of the things that would frustrate me is that I didn't hear enough of things that you can only hear here at BYU. So here's my BYU rant. No, that's my rant's over. I want to go back to the integrity. You guys, number one most important thing in your life ever is to honor your covenants. You've made them. Not everyone here is LDS, but you've made commitments. You have values. I don't care if the person's LDS or not. The Spirit's not exclusive to LDS people. We haven't had more of it maybe, but that's what's valuable. And as you grow in your profession and you network and you meet new people, they know, and you'll have a reputation for integrity or you won't. And the number one most important thing, again, is to honor those covenants, because that's the number one thing. That's the most important thing. And it will ripple through your life, and it will affect every part of your life. Your relationship with your spouse, your relationship with your family. I mean, work supports personal life. Work supports personal growth, right? And so stay focused on those things that are most important. And those shiny objects isn't just the workspace. Is it the money you're chasing? Where's your heart? Those types of things. There's no doubt that every penny of monetary success and frankly every bit of family relationship success that I have is because of those covenants. Those are what are important to me. And that's where we align in our values as well. And it's so fun to create a company around values that are true to our covenants, right? So don't take those lightly. Those will always be the most important things in your lives, or those covenants that you make. Anyway.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks for letting us come.
Thank you.
Cool.